Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review the new horror, fantasy, action, adventure, romance film, The Gorge. And this is a new Apple TV Plus original release, written by Zach Dean, but directed by Scott Derrickson, who previously directed Doctor Strange, The Black Phone, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and Sinister. And obviously he has a very big horror background. And this film has a very interesting idea of this large gorge with watchtowers on either side, with very highly trained operatives on each trying to stop creatures from coming up from this gorge, and what is really going on. Now, this film is about 2 hours and 7 minutes, and literally half of it, the first half of this movie, is setting up Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy's characters, Levi and Drasa. I appreciate the background that Drasa is given. There's some depth there. I did enjoy that little chunk of the film early on. Miles Teller's character is more of just like, he's an expendable dude, and he's showing up, and Sigourney Weaver's dropping exposition. And they drop plenty of exposition. And there's some fun, charming, romantic elements to how they're building up their connection. But this film takes an hour and a half, over an hour, halfway through this film, for this to really tackle the gorge. And for about a half hour of this film, this goes into this crazy horror, like fantasy sci-fi hellscape of a place, and it does look very artificial, a lot of CGI here, but it's horrific, it's terrifying, it has the most grotesque creatures and stuff like that. And what feels so weird is this film really should have been more about that. That's the most interesting part of the film. And the romance elements are solid. I think Teller and Taylor-Joy do a big heavy lift there in terms of selling it. But then this film winds up shirking so much of this like big high concept idea and just focusing on this romance that it's solid romance, but this film has action, horror, sci-fi, fantasy elements all there, and it gets bogged down by a middling romance with two big stars. And the action is engaging enough for sure. Like I said, the CGI is a little overused, but it does really create some horrific and strange creatures. Basically, like, you get into a point where you're like in the hellscape version of like the Super Mario Brothers movie from the early 90s. This like fungus place, and it's wild. But the film seems to like, well, that's not that interesting, and then decides to focus on something else. The dialogue in this film is also extremely clunky. So much exposition, so much I'm telling you this. And what's weird is they spend so much time setting up Levi and Drasa as this couple, and then when they get to the in the gorge, they barely talk or connect or anything like that. The only dialogue really is like exposition dump. And there's so many moments where the film's telling you things that we can obviously see. It's very dumbed down in terms of the script. It really focuses on the things that are not its strengths. And at the end of the day, like, it's an entertaining watch, and I'm sure because this is on Apple TV Plus, it will be an easy watch. It just feels like it had such a great idea, which admittedly is very derivative of Resident Evil, The Last of Us, and all these like horror type games. But it still had that fun element, that thrilling element. It's just, apparently, you only want to focus on that for a fourth of the movie. And the rest of it's like, how much are you invested in this romance that has been built up throughout the film? But those are my thoughts on The Gorge. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.